Well, welcome everybody. It is Thursday night. Welcome to the High Impact Governance webinar series. My name is Tom Miller. My uh, partner Jeff Gorski is on with us, and we will be taking you through the next hour through one of the most critical parts of governance, and that is working with your board, working with the members on your team, because you are a team. And it's critical that you learn to build relationships and connections with others. So this is part one of an 11-part series. We'll actually have 11 sessions. There will be a 12th session sometime throughout the year that's going to focus on relationships between board chairs and school leaders, which is also very important. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and just introduce you to our team. Jeff and I, with his lovely wife Shelby, daughter Anna, and son Giles, and they too have a lovely dog, Lucy, who's actually like a kangaroo. She's missing from this picture, but we're going to get her in there. And then my family, my son Matthew, my daughter Devin, and my lovely wife Jennifer. Without her, none of this would be possible. So moving forward, just a little bit more about us. If you've never met Jeff or myself, we're both former teachers, and we love to teach. We were both charter school principals as well. I was fortunate enough to spend a few years in the Office of Charter Schools as a statewide consultant, and Jeff continued being a principal, and last year worked in a charter school in Raleigh, and he has some other background experience teaching in inner city New York. So we both bring a wide array of skills and experiences, and most importantly, different perceptions to the team. So it's critical. We're both current members of the John Maxwell teaching team, which is very exciting to have Jeff in the program with me, and both learning from some of the same mentors, but then being able to reflect about it. So it's a great opportunity for me. And 2014, I founded this company, Leaders Building Leaders. And our mission is to be the difference maker in the leadership development of individuals and organizations. We're extremely fortunate to work with charter school principals and charter school boards across the state, doing everything from helping schools with their daily operations and procedures to training boards, coaching the executives and the principals, and working with leadership teams to help them build take their organization from success to significance. So our company has four focuses, or four foci. Number one is leadership, because we believe everything rises and falls in leadership, with leadership. So with that, you've got three major spokes. You've got your operations, your governance, and your academics. And we really focus heavily on ensuring that governing boards are equipped and have the understanding of what it means to be looking at effective oversight and effective practices, so they can ensure that their school leader and their members of their team have the skills and strategies necessary to take the organization to the next level and meet its promise to the community. And a big part of that is really focusing on the day-to-day operations. If the school is not managed well and it doesn't have good procedures, strong procedures, it's going to be very difficult for the academics to happen. And that's the whole purpose of school, right? That students are learning, focusing on building their own legacy, a foundation for their legacy. So those are the four areas that we really focus on. And again, it doesn't happen if there's not strong leadership. So moving forward, we really, truly believe in investing. We invest in ourselves. We, invest with our over 5,000 members of the John Maxwell team, learning about leadership, collaborating about leadership, and how we can effectively take what we're learning in the John Maxwell program and instill that into the daily aspects of our goals, of our mission in helping leaders lead themselves at a higher level so they can lead others at a higher level, which is obviously you too believe in investing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this call on a Thursday night. and you wouldn't be volunteering to be governing public charter schools in North Carolina. As a volunteer in ensuring the safety, security, the learning of children, and also governing multi-million-dollar public enterprises, safety, and really ensuring that the taxpayer money is used effectively. So moving forward, I did send, when I sent out the email this morning, a little coaching guide if you would like to utilize it, because it's not necessarily critical what I say, but what's more important are the golden nuggets that you capture, your own reflections. So our actions for improvement are all that truly matters. So here you have just a 3-column spreadsheet I sent you. What are some things from this lesson that I'm going to start doing? What are some things that I'm going to continue at but get better? And what are some things, most importantly, that I'm just going to stop doing? That I'm going to really stop, doing as a board member that may be harming the organization rather than turning it to the next level. So, be sure to utilize the coaching guide to build your personal action plan so you can greater build the action plan of the board. Just a little bit about the program, of what the leadership program is about. We are really focusing on being an outlet for all public charter school leaders, not only through this webinar series, but we also have Monday mentorship phone calls that we have the opportunity to teach leadership, but then also field some calls, from school leaders that may have some barriers that they're trying to overcome, or they need a thinking partner. So that's our second call of the week, is on Thursdays. We have Thinking Partner Thursdays, which we had at 2 o'clock today, and it was fantastic. There was a great question about what happens when you think that you have all your positions hired and a teacher doesn't show up, or they're not who you thought they were, and it just doesn't work out in the first week of school. So great opportunities twice a week, and the main goal is that it's because public charter schools don't necessarily have those large systems behind them to be able to coach them, right, to give them resources, to help them strategize on their next steps. So we aim to be that in any way that we can. And so we have our leadership series for school leaders and their leadership teams during the day, twice a week. And we're hosting these governance webinars once a month, the last Thursday of every month. We'll be focused on governance practices, starting here with the foundation and moving all the way through roles and goals and policies and all those aspects of governing a school. And I'm very excited to add a legal and policy series, which will happen Thursdays at 11, starting in September, the second Tuesday in, it could be the third Tuesday in September. I know it's September 15th, so it must be the third Tuesday. So that's with Lisa Gordon-Stells. She is a legal policy expert. She's a charter school board member, and so she will be starting that series in September, and that's also a 10-part series. So our goal was to provide over 200 hours this year of additional professional development to charter school leaders, and we're well on our way. So that's just a little bit about the leadership program as a whole. The program that you're utilizing, the Join Me program, you can use the chat box up there. So in the upper corner, you'll see there is a little opportunity for you to send us messages, and that would be the best way to send questions in at the chat box. And I'll stop every once in a while and check to see if there's any questions, if there's something you need me to reteach or explain better. We would be happy to do that. And remember, all of our calls, all these sessions are archived on our website, so you'll be able to share these with your colleagues. So moving forward to the next slide, it is time to get good, everybody. Let's get out of our distractions. Let's put the phones away for a second, because the next 60 minutes is going to be very, very powerful for you as a public charter school board member. Let's move on to our opening message. And this is something that I really, really want to focus on when you're talking about charter schools and you're talking about gaining trust in a community, right? The only reason why families choose you they leave what they know is based upon their trusting you, right? They're trusting your message. They're, trusting what your mission and your vision is supposed to be about. Sometimes they are running from something, but it's very exciting when they are running towards something, So when you make a commitment, you build hope, but when you keep a commitment, you build trust. And it's so critical as a board, okay, when you make a commitment to do something for your school leader, for your staff, for your stakeholders, and you follow through is when you build trust. When you don't follow through is when you start to lose trust, all right, and you lose credibility in your organization. So if you could on your side, do me a favor, we got a little bit of feedback. If you could mute on your side, it would help us, just to make sure that everybody can hear well. And so I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Let's really think about common board challenges. I wanted to make sure that we started with this to really talk about what is a common challenge for boards. And here we have 3 of them. One is a dysfunctional group dynamics. Okay, a dysfunctional group dynamics. 2 are disengaged board members. And number 3 are the uncertainty of roles. We'll talk about these this evening, but we'll also talk about them pretty much every single board session that I lead, because these are the 3 issues that occur when organizations can't move forward. These are the 3 that we find. Okay, dysfunctional group dynamics. So this is a poor assembling of a board in regards to skill sets, in regards to perceptions and how they see and how they work together as a team. Disengaged board members are just board members who think that I'm just kind of here to listen to see what's going on. Right? They're not there to necessarily do the work because, boards, especially when you're opening up a public charter school, it's an incredible amount of work that is on boards. And then finally, the uncertainty of roles. Those who don't know the roles that they're supposed to be in will certainly find a role that they feel they are best suited for and they feel that the organization needs. But that's not necessarily the role of a board member. So I'm going to stop right there and see, hey, Jeff, is there any questions? Are we all good on the chat box? Everybody can hear us?
No questions yet. Looks like everything's running just like it needs to.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move to the next slide here. So before you can beware of something, you have to be aware of what some of the issues are, right? So we just talked about those 3 and those 3 board challenges, and here is the fourth challenge really. This is or 3A or whatever you want to call it. But when you have the same type of thinking, which continue to have the same results, it basically turns into destination disease, right? So the same thinking that create the same results can lead to destination disease. And that means as though, we're good. We're not really sure how good we are, but we think we're pretty good. And we're better than the school system. So we're pretty much fine where we are. There's no challenging of the process. And as leaders of the organization, boards need to be challenging the process in a healthy way. There needs to be a healthy conflict in regards to where we are and where we're going, so we're all on the same page. But if we continue to have same thinking mentality, and getting the same results, that's actually the definition of insanity. All right, and I call insanity in the charter school world just destination disease. Let's talk more about a formula for greatness as we move forward here. The formula for greatness for charter school boards is to establish a shared mission and vision. Should be the first step. Okay. The next piece is developing relationships of mutual trust and respect. And that's amongst not only the board and school leader and staff, board and stakeholders, board and community, board and the authorizer, Okay? So we've established a shared mission and vision. We've developed trusting relationships. And then we need to set clear performance expectations, right? Where are we going? What is the end destination? What are we here for? When kids leave our school, what are they going to be great at? When the teachers teach on a daily basis, what are they going to be the most equipped, excellent leaders of? Right? Are we an expeditionary learning school? So if we call ourselves that, then we need to be the best at it. We need to make sure that we set high expectations, that we make sure that all of our teachers have the right training and our school leaders equipped to lead a school towards this shared mission and vision. Because without those pieces, you don't have trust, right? There's always going to be mistrust somewhere in the organization. So that's our formula for greatness. So before we can get there, let's really talk about the model of human behavior, all right? Before we can get to great, we need to think about our model of human behavior. And there's 4 types of personalities in human behavior, all right? You have your dominant, your inspiring, your supportive, and your cautious types. Okay, so we're gonna spend a couple minutes just really talking about those 4, so we can think about how our human behavior impacts our formula for greatness. All right. So I'm going to move forward and ask you a question. So you might be in a room with somebody, you might be by yourself, whatever it is. So I'm going to ask you one question. So how does your motor run? So everybody has a motor. Everybody operates on speeds. Does your motor run fast? Are you outgoing? Or does your motor get more reserved and slow, right? You're more in an idle position most of the time. Okay, so think about it. So either say I'm outgoing or I'm reserved. You can go ahead, throw it in the chat box, whatever, say it out loud. So Tom, I'm either outgoing or I'm reserved. Pick one of those 2. And then we're going to have one other question. Go ahead to the next slide, Jeff. What do you tend to focus on? All right? So I know I'm either outgoing or reserved. I'm either one or the other. And then what do I focus on? Do I focus on people? Am I people-oriented or am I task-oriented? Okay, what's my compass activity? Is it focused on people or task? Okay? So we know we're either outgoing or reserved, but now we need to categorize one more time to either people-oriented or task-oriented. So when I do this in a big room, all right, with board members or whoever we've got, all right, I have basically 4 different corners of the room. I've got my folks that are outgoing and people-oriented. I've got my folks that are outgoing and task-oriented. And I have my folks that are reserved and people-oriented, and my folks that are reserved and task-oriented, right? So those are my 4 categories. So the question is, which one did you fall into, right? So if you're outgoing and task-oriented, you are a D type, right? You're dominant. Dominant folks are doers, okay? They are extremely strong with getting, they have strong drive, right? A tendency to be dynamic leaders. They have a flair for the dramatic, but they're also very demanding, right? But they have such a great drive and determination that they just constantly want to keep going. They want to keep going. Now, they do have a blind side. Sometimes the D's could be a little bit seen as a dictator. They could be defiant at times. All right? But remember we talked about doers, they're the drivers of the group, okay? But they can be seen as a little bit too dictatorship or even defiant at times. So that's our outgoing and task-oriented. Let's move to the I groups. Now your I's would be if you were outgoing and people-oriented. So these I's this is the inspiring. This is our inspiring group. And I's are inspirational. They're also very influencing, right? They can sell snowballs to snowmen. I mean, they're very good at persuading you and influencing you to do other things. They are cause agents, so they're very, very inducing. They're always making things happen. They tend to be very, very interesting people. They can be described as interesting, but they're also very impressionable, right? Every meal that they just had was the best meal ever. Every book they read was the best book ever. Okay. And eyes have a blind side too. We like to be really, really important, but sometimes we're just illogical. Okay, and I said sometimes we, because I'm an I. I'm a DI, an ID blend. All right, I have very, very high traits in both. So sometimes, we're really logical, and sometimes we're inconsistent. Okay, so far we've learned about two of our types. We've got our dominant folks, and our eyes are inspiring. So those are the outgoing. That's the outgoing side. So let's move to the reserved, the next slide. So our S's are supportive. Okay, this is our supportive. So these are reserved and people-oriented. Okay, reserved and people-oriented. And S's are very supportive, and they're steady, and they're stable. They just really give your organization a great deal of security, right? They're very servant-like, servant leadership. They very much want to please. They love harmony. Sometimes they can be looked at as though they're a little shy. Right? And they love the status quo or the sameness. Right? Very, very sentimental. They like things staying the same. However, so their blind side, sometimes an S can be seen as a sucker. Okay? That's what they can be seen as a sucker. So that is our reserved people-oriented groups. So far we've had three groups we've talked about. We've talked about our outgoing and task-oriented as our Ds, our outgoing, our people-oriented, our Is, our inspiring folks, and now we have our reserved people-oriented, our supportive folks. And our last group are our Cs. So let's move on to the C. The C-type, reserved and task-oriented. And Cs are extremely competent, right? They're cautious. They're our cautious type, but they're competent. They're careful and calculating. Okay, they demand compliance. They are rule followers. They are not fans of things that are out of order and chaotic. They're constantly thinking. They're very, very conscientious about everything that they do, and they love, love, love to be correct. They love to be correct and keeping things within their control. Now, their blind side for Cs, they can be sometimes seen as being very cold. Okay, very cold. And they're usually told, sometimes they're told, I used to not think you were a very nice person until I got to know you, right? So it's always important, really think about that. If you know someone of that type, you kind of got to just wear them down, right? In the sense of really kind of getting to know them so they can trust you because they're just contemplating you, what your actions are, what your intentions are. So we've talked about those four, right? So we have the D, I, S, and C. So when you look at it, back in that first slide that we had, our Ds, our dominant, are really complemented by our supportive people, right? Our dominance and our supportive. And you can see that, right? You got your heavy doers, drivers, and then you need that nice supportive, almost the yin to the yang. And then you have your Is and your Cs also complete each other. Inspiring, and they're outgoing. They're kind of all over the place, while C's are very controlled. They really, really help. And Jeff, Jeff, my partner, he's a solid C, and I'm up here in the I range. And we really complement each other because he definitely keeps me, thinking ahead, being a little bit more conscientious. He does a great job of just cleaning up a lot of my all-over-the-place work. So it's important that you build a team that completes. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Your team contributions. Again, you see your D, your I, your S, and your C, and you see how they, on the angle they complement each other. All right, and what they bring to your organization, D's bring adventure and determination, creativity, and innovation. I's, imagination, inspiration, expression, and interaction. Your S's, stability. They bring harmony, compatibility. Okay? They stress security. The C's provide analysis. They bring logic. They use objectivity, and they stress consistency. Right? So this is the team atmosphere. So I want you to think about your board. Where do you fit in on here? And where do certain members of your team fit on here? Do you have a board that's full of D's, right? And maybe you have a lot of butting heads, right? A lot of people that want to be in charge. Or do you have a lot of I's? Do you have a lot of I's that maybe they just constantly just throw ideas out there and we're just kind of, going from meeting to meeting, and we're not really kind of sure, like, where we're going, but we're having fun doing it? Or do you have a board of S's, supportive, that just kind of, hey, we just want everybody to get along. This is so great. We want the kids to be happy. But you don't see a lot of action in their meetings. Or is it C's, where you have so much, we need more information. Keep bringing us information. Right, we're not ready to make a decision. We need more information. They don't like change. So think about your team. Is your team complete, or are you a little imbalanced as a team? Let's move forward. I want you to reflect. So based on your style, I want you to write down, what do you bring to the team? What do you need from your teammates? And maybe what are some of the misconceptions that your fellow board members or other teammates might have about you based upon your style, your D, I, S, or C style? And really think about, how can we utilize information like this with our fellow board teammates, our stakeholders, our school leader? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to reflect upon this and really, really think about this. What do you bring to the team? What do you need from your teammates? And I would love if, a couple of you throw your answers in the chat box, Give us some reflection of kind of what you're thinking about your team. And Jeff, while we're doing that, you can either read them out, and I would like to get your reflection too, as being, a member of our team for a short time now. What have you seen this DISC style? What kind of engagement have you seen, a change in boards and conversations have you seen during our board retreats?
Well, it's funny, Tom, because the first direction that I see people take is back at themselves. We're talking about being a team, but it's almost like once you have identified your quadrant, you can be a little more comfortable with yourself. And so,
yeah, that's a great point.
We talk about our I or our C or our D or our S, and everyone can identify some of their strengths and their faults based on where they find. And some people, it's like across the room, we'll hear people start spontaneously laughing out loud at themselves, thinking about, wow, that really is true of me, just by doing this little quadrant test. So the first thing I see is people look back at themselves. But what I think the real strength in looking at this tool is that if you can identify the other members of your team, it's almost like you can let people stop explaining themselves or apologizing for themselves, because you can just say, oh, I already know what this person needs. I already know why this person is talking to me this way, and I can reply to them in a manner that best speaks to them. That's what I've gotten the most out of using this tool among other teams.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's been very eye-opening, and especially to the boards that we've worked with and the retreats that we've done, and it really generates great conversation in a sense of, sometimes it's, kind of joking, but, like in a sense it's like, oh, I know you a little bit better now. I have a little bit of better understanding about you just based upon just this short conversation. And that's really what I want to make sure our first session is about learning how to build relationships and orient your board members because, hey, it's August. I know you all have brand new board members. So what are we doing to orient our board? What are we doing to ensure that it's a comfortable environment? How are we having a better seeking to understand our school leader, our stakeholders, our staff, when they have concerns, when they bring up public comment, like we need to be looking through their eyes first, right? We should always be looking outside in. We've got to always be leading ourselves at the highest level, but really focusing on the message that's, coming in. So I'm going to pause for a sec. Jeff, were we able to get anybody in the chat box?
I'm afraid not yet.
Okay, that's fine. And, we can hold on to that. So we can move forward. Hopefully someone will get something in there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. As the top of the organization, focused on the core values of the organization, leadership is a choice, right? And leadership is influence. In order to build your influence, you've got to be able to deeply connect with other people. And as a board of volunteers who's sometimes very unclear about their roles and how they should act in certain settings, especially if you're a parent and a board member, you've got to have the ability to connect with others. Right? You've got to be able to build that bridge as you're governing the organization. So let's move on. So the first part of connecting is the ability to communicate responsibilities with clarity. You've got to be able to communicate what the responsibilities are as a board with clarity. So let's look at the board's responsibilities. The board's responsibilities is to set and measure, evaluate whether programs are successful, discuss and decide. They do this by asking how well questions. How well is our education plan meeting the needs of students? How well is the program that we just paid, the character education program that we just invested $50,000 in? How well is it meeting our needs? Is it changing? How well do the parents like it? How well do the students like it? How well do the teachers like it? And the management's responsibilities are to execute. Execute, lead, develop, and deliver. And they answer the board's how well questions. They answer with tangible evidences and the how. All right? Maybe we didn't do well in regards to student marketing and we fell short of our numbers. Well, what are we going to do differently? We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, we're going to be looking at different places. Maybe we're going to offer transportation, whatever that is. They're the execution part. The board is the how well. The management is the how will. Okay, it's very important to be able to communicate responsibilities with clarity. That's the first one. Let's take a look at the structure of what that looks like overall. We have our board of directors sitting at the top. And you see we have direct lines to standing committees and lead administrator. All right? That's it as a board. Those are your two lines of communication. The lead administrator has their straight lines to the staff and the students and parents. And you see the staff has a straight line to the students and parents as well. I don't see a straight line from the staff to the board of directors. I don't see a straight line from the staff to the standing committees. All right? The board's at the top of the organization, instilling the values, okay, setting the policies, setting the expectations, setting the vision. They're not in the weeds on the day-to-day operations piece. That's what they hired a lead administrator for. Head of school, executive director, whatever you want to call them. You'll see that there's a dotted line of the students and parents in the community to the board through either public comment or a grievance. There's a proper channel, there's a proper procedure in order to get there. Boards can't go out of their way to get private information from parents. It's not their responsibility to do that. okay, not their responsibility. So that's a design of the structure in regards to the clarity aspect. Any questions on the main role and responsibility, the how well versus the how will, and design of the structure?
No questions popping up.
All right. So let's go ahead and slide forward. So how does your board function, right? Does it function like the kids in the canoe on the left, right, rowing in all different directions? Or does it operate like a well-oiled machine on the right-hand side with a team of rowers heading towards the finish line? Think about your board meetings. Which of the two, how would you describe your board if you were to use one of the pictures? On the left or the right? It's critical when we have a team and a formula for greatness, right? And a team that completes, not a team that competes, right? The kids in the boat on the left-hand side, they're competing against each other, right? They're rowing in opposite directions, compared to the team on the right-hand side is they're all rowing as one, right? It's all about unity with the board. The board speaks with one voice or not at all. Let's go ahead and slide forward one. So sometimes perceptions are at times the reality, right? So when we're connecting with others, there's three questions that stakeholders and your school leader, they'll be asking internally. Do you care for me? Can you help me? And can I trust you? When parents take that leap of faith, and enroll in your lottery, these are the three questions that they're answering. Do you really care about my child? Can you help me and my family? And can I trust you? Can I trust you that when you say we're going to have this program, or we're going to be at this site, or we're going to offer this, transportation service, if you make a commitment, you're giving them that hope. When you keep it, that's when you build the trust. So this is always vital in your first few weeks of school. If you've got new parents and new kids, charter schools are funded based upon their first 20 days of enrollment. This is critical. This is critical and vital for the organization to be able to answer these three questions through their actions, not just words. Let's go to the next slide for a nice connecting quote. I love this quote. You can connect with others if you're willing to get off your own agenda, to think about others, and to try to understand who they are and what they want. Why do you really think the parents choose you? Why do you think the parents chose your school? Have you taken the time to ask them, what is it that you wanted when you came here? And are we giving it to you? Are we fulfilling that promise? Because many times charter schools chase the wind in regards to their attrition. They find out why kids are leaving, and it's maybe a small minority of their children, yet they want to change their programming based upon that handful of kids. And they forget about the families that they connected with immediately. So it's important to figure out, what is it that your parents want? You can't give them everything, and sometimes they want things that are unrealistic. But the focus is, are we doing what we said we were going to do? Are we meeting all of the tiny components of our charter application that we wrote, right, if we're founding board members, that we stayed up late nights to write and develop and think about? Are we doing everything that we said we would do, specifically to meet the needs of the kids that we said we were going to support? Let's go to the next slide, Jeff. And this one has a lot of parts, so you can go ahead and go all the way through to the end of it for me. So connecting goes beyond words. And I wanted to really think about this from when I observe board meetings. What does the board look like? Do the board members appear engaged? Do they appear as though they are on point with what the school leader might be reporting on? right? So there's three components to face-to-face communication: your words, your tone of voice, and your body language. So what we say, the words we use, is only 7% of our communication. Our tone of voice, how we say it, is 38%. But our body language is 55%. So when you're at a board meeting, what are you doing? Are you on your phone, looking at Facebook? Are you texting? Are you engaging the speaker? What are you doing? Have you prepared for this meeting? Are you aware of what is being discussed? 90% of the impression that we give to other people is based upon nothing that we say, the words that we choose. It's how we say it and our body language. It's important to think about if you were to watch a video of your board meeting, what does it look like? What do they look like? Let's go ahead and I want to do a little bit of reflection here on the next slide. So how relevant of the few things that we've talked about is this, how is this relevant to your role as a board member? Who are you trying to connect with? All right? Who does the board connect with? Who's the most important groups or individuals that the board needs to connect with? And how can you as a board and the individual board member become more aware of how you are communicating, right? Based upon the questions that you ask. The questions that you ask, are they focused on challenging the progress of the organization, the process of the organization in a positive, healthy conflict way, or are you asking questions to show that you're right? Because there's a big difference between the two. And the only way that you can ask those difficult questions is if you've made connections with the school leader and you have trust. Because good questions inform you. The great questions can transform the organization. And it's the board's responsibility to be prepared to ask great questions and to be thinking down the road. Jeff, any questions on the board? Is everybody okay out there?
Looks like everybody's okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and move to this next slide, all right? So we're going to keep focusing on this connecting part. Connecting boards take initiative, right? So they prepare ahead of time. They read the board materials, and Jeff and I recommend that board materials come to the board no later than 7 days prior to the board meeting. So if your board meeting's on September 10th, by September 3rd, the board should have all the information that they need to have action during that September 10th meeting. Well prepared. Ask great questions. Have an understanding of the barriers that there really are in running in a public school. There's many barriers that charter school leaders face on a daily basis at a public school. And be the bridge. Right? Be a bridge. How do you as a board member start to kind of build that bridge so we can all be walking in the same direction, right? Walking towards your stakeholders. Say, hey, I'm going to build a bridge for you. We're going to go this way. Come on. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. There's nothing that drives a principal crazier than boards who are not prepared for the board meeting. Right? They spend time to do a principal's report, and nobody reads it, and nobody asks them questions on it. That is the beginning of destination disease. There must be a trust but verification process. And I remember living down in New Hanover County and watching the school board meetings on television, and just being, these are elected officials, and they're not prepared. They haven't read their work. There's no excuse. If we, as board members, expect our students to come to school every day, be engaged, and learn as best as they can, finish their work, and then the teachers to give them feedback on their work and to come to work every day and be 100% on top of their game 8 hours a day and their principals to do the same, well, darn it, our board members should be able to, once a month, be prepared for their board meeting and be there. That's taking initiative. That's modeling the way. Let's look at the next slide. The next step is being able to demonstrate organizational patience, right? So sometimes this means we got to slow down. So this is really pointed out to you D's and you I's. Sometimes we need to slow down. Okay, we need to understand that, we're not making a Burger King here. We're dealing with real people on real time. We can make changes. But we've got to give those changes an opportunity to be successful, especially if we're in our first couple of years of operation. Great connectors are always ahead. They're always looking ahead. That's your job, to be looking ahead, being visionary, but they consciously slow down to make sure that they're not miscommunicating. Right? They're not making promises that we're not ready to meet. And how can we recognize this? Well, if you're hearing a lot of miscommunication feedback, then this is probably part of the problem, right? You're not either completing your thoughts, you're not completing the process, you're not ensuring that everybody's equipped to meet the next rungs of the ladder to get to the top. In our world of instant gratification and smartphones and Wikipedia and all these fun things, we've got to learn to slow down and make sure we're focusing on our people. Remember I said, from the right side to the left side, right? If you always focus on your people first, then the task, guarantee you're going to have success. Next slide. Connecting boards model the way. All right, they are always modeling the way. And that's what I'm talking about. They are engaged, they are prepared, they are on time, they lead purposeful meetings, they have action, they have great, healthy conversation, and they make the best decision for the organization to get them from point A to point B. Constantly modeling the way. Connecting boards are also rivers, right? They are constantly pouring in to their organization, right? They are constantly looking for how do we better the organization. They're not reservoirs. They don't keep information back. They're constantly pouring into their people, and their people go from, like I talked about many times, your school leader all the way to your students and your stakeholders, everybody. They're open, they're transparent, they're a giver, they're not a taker, okay? They are a river, not a reservoir. Let's move forward. Connecting boards build bridges. They connect. Connecting is it's not on your ground, okay? It's on their ground, on your stakeholders' ground, on your teachers' ground, all right? I used to work for an organization where pretty much the theory of the organization was that the teachers were lucky to get a job in this market, right? That was not connecting on their ground. That was being on our agenda. And we were focused on the scores compared to our people, right? We were more focused on the performance, the results. We were results-oriented instead of people-oriented. And that hurt us. It really hurt us. Got to learn to build that bridge. If we have a high teacher turnover, we've got to identify what is it. Because people don't quit organizations. People quit people. Something that's happening in the organization to make people quit. What is it? Connecting boards, Jeff, keep it simple. All right, they focus on the priorities, they stay engaged on the big rocks, and they don't get involved with the trivial issues. Simplicity is the key. All right? Make sure all of your board members have their hard copies in their packets and they get their information on time and it's clear and it's simple and everybody gets it. The school leaders have to do a great job of ensuring that they're not sending their boards information that they don't understand, or honestly it has no meaning or bearing on whether they know whether the school's successful or not. If they don't understand the information that is coming to them, people are going to develop their own theories. And I heard recently that if they're not asking good questions, I'm not too worried about the answer. You as a board, keep it simple. We want this reported on to show us the progress in this goal on a monthly basis. Thank you. That's what we want. Here's when we want it. Keep it simple. Don't make it convoluted. The next slide is all about your vision. Connecting boards are visionary, right? How's your board's vision? Vision without passion is a picture without possibilities. Connecting effective boards are always looking 3 to 5 years down the road. And if the information brought to the board meeting doesn't help them make decisions looking at the organization down the road, then it doesn't belong in a board meeting. Okay? Now let me make sure that I'm clear. That's for boards that are a little bit more mature and schools that are a little bit more mature. Schools in their first couple of years, you're focused on survival. You're trying to get out of the scarcity box, right, and moving towards survival from being scarce with resources to in survival mode and then moving to success mode, right? That's your board framework. Once you've hit that success mode, now you're visionary. What is significance? Where are we going? What do we need to get there? What's working in other schools? Let's go find out. Paint the picture. Next slide talks about does your board have clear goals, clear set goals? Because what gets measured gets done. I'm thinking of the boards that I've worked with over the last 3 years. I'm going to say, let's say there's 40. Less than half have had organizational goals. And I was just reading a book with my 2-year-old son the other day, Winnie the Pooh, and Pooh said, I think he asked Piglet, where are we going? And Piglet said, I'm not really sure. And Pooh said, well, I'm pretty sure we'll get there. I'm pretty sure we'll find that place. That's the same for organizations. If you don't have a target, you'll never miss. Set clear goals. Keep them simple. Keep them focused on getting to the ultimate goal, the ultimate destination. Next slide, please. Clear expectations for the school leader. Does your school leader know what's expected of them? Because what gets rewarded gets repeated. What are we looking for? When's the last time you praised your school leader for something specific rather than just, good job. Incredible job, meeting 4 of our 5 goals this year, one being teacher retention, or making sure all of our teachers had 100% professional development, right? Fantastic job managing the budget to ensure we still had a $100,000 surplus at the end of the year. Whatever it is, give them specific positive praise based upon what their expectations are, and have an evaluative process to show whether they're meeting those goals. Because if they're not meeting those goals, it's either a motivation issue or a skill issue. And if it's a skill issue, it's the board's responsibility to get them the help that they need. If it's a motivation issue, that's another conversation. Jeff, with this next slide, go ahead all the way through. Connectors create experiences. Connecting boards create experiences that everyone enjoys. If you're a connector, you just know how to take any experience and make it bigger than life. You're changing the lives of children and families So everything you do should be at a high level and focused on the positive and moving direction and navigating towards our ultimate goal. Love this quote. People will not always remember what you said or what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So I think about all the new people in your organization, your new board members, your new members of the leadership team, maybe your new principal, your new teachers, your new students. How are we making them feel? Because that's all that matters. That's all that matters in their minds. So empower your committees. Orient your board members. Be prepared for meetings. Do the little bit extra that goes a long distance, right? As Zig Ziglar said, there's no traffic jams in the extra mile, everybody. Continue to go the extra step. What are we doing to elevate the experience? And trust your team. Trust your committees that they've done the work. Don't send a committee out to do hours and hours of work, and then when they come back to the full board as a report, challenge their decision, challenge their recommendation. I'm not saying you have to flat out agree with it, but do your homework and ask great questions. That's why committees go to die, because the board has no trust. The board has no trust. So looking at this next slide, if you have any new board members, what is your orientation process? How are you making them feel? I just joined the board, just had my first board meeting, and I'm kind of ashamed to say I don't know all their names, all the board members' names. I've got to do a better job of maybe building that bridge next time, making sure I know everybody, making sure I know kind of what their skill sets are, right? Having awareness and understanding of the mission and the goals and the values, right? How a board meetings run. So there's a lot of things that I probably should have done to initiate to make it a stronger experience for me. I'm telling you that, so you as a board member, if you haven't had your first board meeting yet, or you've got new members coming on, make sure they're prepared. Make sure they're prepared for their board meeting. Let's take a look at the inspiration equation. I love this, the inspiration equation. What people know plus what people see plus what people feel equals inspiration. Okay, so let's go through that again. So what do people know? They know that you understand them and are focused on them, and that you have high expectations of them, because everybody deserves high expectations. Now, plus what people need to see is your conviction and your example. You can't tell people to have fantastic work ethic, be on time, be prepared, ask great questions, and you as the board chair or a board officer don't come to meetings or show up late, don't have your materials. And what do people need to feel? That your confidence not only in yourself but in them, right? Let them know why they're here on the board. As a board chair, ask people what they think. We want to know what people think. That's why we brought them onto the board with their skill set, and they look at things differently. If we utilize this DISC personality style effectively, we're going to have all these great different perceptions, right? C's are so critical because they analyze, but we need to make sure that a C gets the budget a week ago, not 5 minutes prior to the meeting to make a $3 million decision, to approve a $10 million budget, right? They need the information ahead of time so they can analyze. Ask the supportive folks, hey, what do you think? I need to get your input here. You have great ideas and great observations. Bring them to the board, right? Maybe that's a private meeting ahead of time. Let them know your confidence in them, okay? It equals inspiration. I'm telling you, follow that inspiration equation. You cannot lose. So when you have that equation in place, you need to think about, do your actions align? Does the board actions align with everything that we've just talked about, all these aspects? Because, let me tell you, as Jim Collins has become a multimillionaire saying this very simple phrase: good is the enemy of great. I remember asking a school recently, what is your goal for academics? What is your desired outcome? And a board member said, to be better than the school system. And I looked at them honestly and I said, well, so let's say that the school system is 25% of their kids pass the test and 28% of your kids pass the test. So yippee, you win. Does that mean you're great in any way? No. Good is the enemy of great. Be great at everything you do. It's a matter of choice and discipline. Can you be at your best at 100% at every single moment of every day? No, but you can certainly choose throughout your day when I need to be 100%. And volunteering on a public charter school board meeting for the 90 minutes, hopefully you're there for 90 minutes, focused, engaged, you can be great for that time because your decisions impact thousands of children and millions of dollars of taxpayer money. And the only reason why charter schools fail are because of actions or non-actions of the board. Which takes us right to the next slide. When you are unified, right? When you're unified, it's better to get hurt by the truth than comforted with a lie. If we're all in this together as one, we win as a team, we lose as a team. There are no Monday morning quarterbackings. Whether the vote was 5-4 or 9-0, the decision is the same by the board, and every board member needs to be carrying through with that. It is what it is. You want your school leader to bring the truth. You want your school leader to be, really analyzing and identifying problems to get them better. You want a relationship where they feel comfortable bringing you that information. Ask them great questions. Don't let them off the hook. You're not doing them or your school or those children any favors. So, Mr. Gorski, if you can head to our parting message. Zig Ziglar, the most influential voice you'll hear today is your own, so be careful how you speak to yourself, right? Every time you walk into that board meeting, you walk in with confidence that you're there for a reason, you have great skill sets, and when you walk out of that meeting, you feel just as confident knowing that you made the best decisions that you could based upon your morals and your values and the information that was put in front of you. And failure is an event. It's not a person. I reflect more on the decisions that I did not make compared to the ones that I made that went horribly awry. You cannot be afraid to fail. That's the only way that we learn and we get better is by reflecting upon our failures. So I know I covered a lot in a short time. The last slide has our contact information on and our Twitter if you want to follow us on Twitter. I want to thank you for adding value and open up the line if there's any questions. Anybody out there who has a comment, did this add value to you? Was there anything in particular that really hit home? Would love to hear your reflections. If you don't have time for them now or if you still want to gather your thoughts, feel free to email us, reach out to us, get some clarification. Jeff is going to we will send out the recording of this to you so you'll be able to share with your team if they weren't able to attend. So, Jeff, I'm going to open the floor up to you for any closing thoughts and see if there's any questions on the board.
Sure. Well, I guess my parting thoughts are this, Tom, that every board that we meet and every new board that we work with seems to be filled with people who have an honest desire in their heart to help children. And when that sentiment starts at the bottom of the organization with all the teachers and assistants, and moves to the leadership, and then is inclusive of the board. That's revolutionary. That makes amazing things happen for the children of your community and of our state, and even nationally. You know, we've done some work, with schools that have arms across the country, and so my gratitude goes out to everyone in the charter school boards we meet for doing the amazing things you do, and I hope that tonight we were able to give you some food for thought on how you can improve your practice and even reach higher for the students that you serve.
That's fantastic. I agree. Yes, it's a very, very difficult job, and I definitely thank you because you are volunteers. And remember, your decisions are important because every decision you make impacts the children in some way. So, Jeff, if there's no questions on the board, I guess we can close it up.
No questions, just a couple of thank you messages. I think we're ready.
Great. Fantastic. All right, everybody, make it a great night. Make it a great Friday, and be safe this weekend, and take care of yourself. Thank you.